general fund projection that you got in your packets. So you can see on the top line, it's just the beginning balances across those years. Revenues, you'll notice, are flat. They are absolutely, completely flat for the entire projection. Some people might think that's conservative. We actually don't. If you are involved in state conversations, the state is cautioning that with things like TABOR refunds and the enactment of Senate Bill 228 and some state obligations that are coming in the next year or two, funding is a little bit unpredictable. So we don't think flat is too conservative. We don't really know what the state position is going to be a year or two out. Expenditures, you'll see, I'll say flat like 10 times on this slide, but expenditures are pretty flat too. We did remove, as you read in your board update memo, all assumptions for any inflationary or compensation increases in every single out year. There are no assumed increases for any reason. So that is a very low estimate for a budget. I mean, usually you would at least assume inflation on just normal expenditures, but we have nothing in there for assumed placeholders. So just so you're aware that everything has been stripped down and matches 14-15's numbers.
So,
may I ask you, has that been our practice in the past?
No, it has not.
Why change? I don't remember this.
Actually, in order to ensure that we maintain reserve balances, if we assumed the increase, whether it's inflationary or compensation related, all that we would be doing was increasing that assumed reduction number in order to preserve reserve balances. And it has not, and I would say up especially before the Great Recession, we always had a placeholder in there, whether for inflation and for compensation, because in our environment that is realistic. And then during the times of the significant budget cuts, we did begin stripping out any assumptions in order to maintain. We had projected reserve balances, and then going forward, it was the decisions and direction of the board as far as implementing any of those other assumptions.
Revenue over under, that's your impact to reserves. That's the annual impact to your bottom line.
I would like to make a motion to restore the placeholder for $2 million that was originally earmarked for reserves.
you know, everything that I've heard and seen leads me to believe that reserves at the 10% level are adequate and efficient. And if we become less efficient, then we need to be mindful of the fact that it's taxpayers' money that we're becoming less efficient with. If we're able to maintain our credit rating at the reserve levels of $60 million at around 10%, then I think it behooves us to be responsible and do that. So I am not inclined to significantly increase reserves if we're at an efficient level, and I believe we are, and I believe we perfectly are. But I do think we should consider that as a last conversation when we get final numbers. Ms. Williams.
I agree with that. As soon as we have those last final numbers, if we do have that extra increase of funds coming in, I'd love to see a big portion put in our reserves. I would like to treat it like my own budget at home.
We do have a motion and a second.
I have one other thing. I believe, and help me if I'm wrong, that we are showing a structural imbalance, I'm trying to use your words, of almost $2 million in addition to the reserves. Is that correct?
You are correct. We actually have in 14-15 a plan $100,000 structural imbalance, but when you go out into the out years, you see a 2-year in 15-16, 16-17, an ongoing structural imbalance.
And we would have a $7 million structural imbalance if we didn't have the $5 million placeholder for reductions in the third year.
So adding on to that, one more comment. Although I respectfully understand where you're at with your efficient reserves, 10%, but all of our areas of, and I want to say contingency or coverage are strict. The inflation, any compensation increases, and the reductions, and flat revenues, when they're telling us if there is a decrease in revenues. So it is a matter of, we look at this year and looking at this year's budget, I'm comfortable. But we never look at just 1 year. That's just my opinion.
Definitely need to revisit this annually. Ms. Rutherford?
And I think that that has been our strength as a school district, and I think that's why this district has weathered very difficult budget times, because we've been very thoughtful in working with our community, through SPAC, through our accountability committees, through our community members, business leaders, to think about how we're wise and we're fiscal stewards of taxpayer dollars. And part of that decision making is making sure that you have a rainy day fund, especially when we're looking at uncertainty moving forward. So with that, I would just continue to say I support the original placeholder that was in the budget for $2 million in reserves.
Okay, I believe that you want to continue with the motion, so roll call.
Ms. Dahlkemper?
Yes.
Ms. Feldman?
Yes.
Mr. Meeker? Ms. Williams?
No.
Mr. Witt?
No.